All right, Chris, we are getting ready for this season.
We are.
And it's interesting. The conversation's about guys who aren't with the Panthers.
Two big names, and they are not currently on the roster.
They're not. But that's going to drive the discussion. Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. By the way, thank you again, everyone. Earlier today, our instant reaction video to Adam Thielen getting traded to the Minnesota Vikings. So make sure you go check that out as well. But leave your thoughts in the comments on what you think this Panthers offense can look like now that Adam Thielen is no longer with the team. And Chris, you and I, again, we had the instant reaction earlier on Wednesday after the Adam Thielen trade. And as we're going back through, looking through the moves on the roster, which we'll dive into here in a little bit, but got to thinking about this. And I actually had a conversation with Tim Donnelly on the drive on 99.9 The Fan Wednesday afternoon about this, is that if this Panthers offense was hinging on Adam Thielen to be successful, it probably wasn't going to be a good offense as a whole, because you have a former number 1 overall pick at quarterback in Bryce Young. You have the 8th overall pick in this year's draft in Tepper McMillan. You have the 32nd pick in last year's draft in Xavier Legette. You have the highest paid, if not the second highest paid offensive line in the entire NFL. You have the guy that finished 8th in the NFL in rushing in Chuba Hubbard. You have the guy that finished 12th in the NFL last year in Rico Dowdle in rushing.
But the 28th overall running back room.
Hey, ESPN can kick rocks on that one. So why would the offense hinge on that one guy? That's the thing I want to bring up, Chris. And let's not disrespect Jalen Coker in this matter as well. I just think it's just, I think the Panthers were looking at, let's not slow down the progress of all this investment that we put into these young receivers and these young pieces that they have on offense. Let's not slow down the development of these guys. That's how I view it.
Yeah, and that absolutely could be the case. I think another way to think about this too, and I don't disagree with you, but another way to think about it is, I don't think anybody was expecting Adam Thielen to be the best receiver by any stretch of the imagination on the field for the Carolina Panthers.
True.
But I was wondering, when times get tight towards the end of the game, when you need that one person to make that play, are the receivers that are currently on the roster going to be able to do that? And who's going to be the leader? Here's something I thought about, and this is not an apples to apples comparison, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of when the Carolina Panthers sent Steve Smith packing, and then you knew for sure, unquestionably, this was Cam Newton's team.
Yeah.
We know for sure, unquestionably, this is Bryce Young's team. This is why I say this. You bring in Andy Dalton as that veteran backup so he could be the voice with Bryce Young. He's been there, but we know that Dalton, unless Bryce really flatlines, Dalton's not coming in this. And if he does come in, Bryce is on his way out.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take Andy Dalton out of it. But you bring in guys like Adam Thielen and some other veterans, and you're wanting to help insulate this new guy that you drafted number 1 overall. Well, now in his 3rd year, this move is also signifying, hey, Bryce, we're completely 100% riding on your shoulders.
Yep.
There is no other leader in that locker room that we're going to be leaning on right now. So if things do get tight at the end of the game, it's not up to Adam Thielen to come to the office and get him riled up. It's not going to be up to Chuba Hubbard. It's not going to be up to Robert Hunt, even though those guys can do it. It's going to be up to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing that this is signifying. You're absolutely right. I don't think that, like, going into this, I don't think anybody really thought like, oh, Adam Thielen needs to be 1,000-yard receiver this year for the Panthers to have a chance. I wasn't thinking like that. But I was wondering, okay, who's going to be the guy, the vocal leader? And now we know it 100% has to be Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And again, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it sort of reminds me of when the Panthers fully gave the keys to Cam Newton when they got rid of Steve Smith.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And I I think that's a pretty good comparison. Again, totally different personalities.
Yes.
Yeah, completely different
And
personalities.
links of time and what those two receivers meant to the, to the organization, all that. That's why I said it's not completely apples to apples, but
I see the comparison though, and I think it's a pretty valid one. I would say good one in this sense because
he kept going lower. It's valid. Oh,
yeah, valid. Good. It's valid. It's all right. But no, I totally get what you're saying in that sense for the fact that someone or eventually when it came to Cam, you had to turn things over to Cam 100%. And I think this is 100% what the Panthers are doing right now. You have to get the nail on the head in that regard. So yes, valid, good, great, awesome. In terms of that comparison, and for Bryce Young, if I know we talked about it earlier, that you're taking away his safety blanket, you're taking away that it's 3rd and 8. Where's Adam? You take that away from him now. If Bryce struggles because Adam Thielen isn't there, then that's a Bryce issue, not an Adam Thielen not being their issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, they look at the investment that they've put in at receiver on this roster, or just the skill positions as a whole. First round pick. Those are your 2 starters with Legette and McMillan. And you have a young, just up-and-coming guy in Jalen Coker, who at times last year in moments and in games was the best receiver on the field at times last year.
Yep.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
And you have a very high 4th round pick in Jadeveon Sanders, who is set to be a starter this year as well. And again, everything the last 2 years that the Carolina Panthers, for the most part, have done with the draft and the money that's been spent, so much has been geared to put everything around Bryce, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the offensive line, with the guards they signed, Taylor Moton gets a contract, all the guys that they've drafted, extending Chuba Hubbard, that was all to put around Bryce Young. Okay, Bryce Young, you go make it work now. You have to go make it work. It's on you. The organization has put the investment on all these guys around him. It's on him to make it work. And they've sacrificed a lot on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Bryce, you're without Adam Thielen, but now it's on all the guys that were put investments on. You mentioned it earlier as well when we had the reaction about, hey, Xavier Legette, time to show that you are worthy of the 32nd pick.
Oh, yeah.
Like time to show that. I mean, Tedderell McMillan, time to show that you are worthy of the 8th overall pick.
You know what?
Like,
I don't
it's
even
also
think
on some of these guys too.
I don't think I would say that, like, because of this move, it put more pressure on Bryce and XL. I don't think there's that much pressure on Tedderell McMillan right now.
I think there is. There is.
It not as much as Bryce and XL. Like, of course, like you can't come out there and look like you're not, a first rounder. You can't drop passes, every week, right? Like, obviously there's going to be a level of performance that's there, but I don't think that anybody in their right mind is going to see him, like, let's say if he only gets 600 yards this year, like, oh, he only had 600 yards. If XL on the other side only got 400 himself and some drop passes. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I think this is mostly on Bryce and XL with Adam Thielen not being there, because, like, Adam Thielen was the one who's going to insulate those guys. And now with him not being there, like, it feels like anything that you get, I know he's going to be a lot better than this, but I feel like anything you get from Jalen Coker is extra.
Yeah.
He's an undrafted free agent. You're not even expecting him to be on the roster this year. If we're talking about where we were sitting last year.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's sitting on the roster with the opportunity to possibly move up to wide receiver number 2.
Oh, yeah. Would not surprise me at the end of the year if he's the number 2 option. Would not surprise me.
So anything from him really is a bonus. And I'm not saying that as a diss to him. It's just more so the way you were acquired really does matter. And so for Xavier Legette, they moved up into the first round to go get you, only one spot up, but they moved up into the first round to come get you. Now Adam Thielen's not there, and that puts and Tedderell McMillan is there. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you, bro. You got to make sure you're stepping up. You got to be the T. Higgins to his Jamar Chase for sure.
Yeah. But I think, when you're drafted 8th overall, you're expected to go out there and perform right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
especially the position that they drafted him to be in terms of that X receiver. hey, you got to stretch the field. You got to come up with the big time catches. When it's 3rd and 8, you got to be trusted to come down with the ball. Simple as that.
Do you feel like Coker is the big slot now?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 'Cause I think he really excels in those intermediate routes, and the guy catches everything.
Yeah.
He's reliable. I think he really excels in those intermediate routes, and he does look a step quicker. He did lean down a little bit from compared to where he was last year. I know Dave Canales raved about it in the offseason as well. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely physically improved himself as well. But now there's a lot of conversation of, well, what about maybe bringing back Hunter Renfrow? And Dave Canales talked to the media on Wednesday after practice. And Chris, you tweeted this out and kind of got the impression of, is Hunter Renfrow thinking about retiring because he didn't make the 53-man roster? Clearly the Panthers are having that open dialogue of, hey, we want you here in some capacity, whether it's practice squad or maybe eventually on the 53, but it seems like the ball is in Hunter Renfrow's court.
So
in terms of what he wants to do.
This is just reading the tea leaves. I'm just putting everything together. Dave Canales once said he looks like he hadn't taken a step down. It looks like he was the same guy, right? And then we heard Hunter Renfrow basically saying like he wants to be, if he's going to be playing football, he wants to be with the Carolina Panthers. He doesn't really it felt like he was somewhat open to possibly going to other places, but it have to be the right situation, maybe which sounds like the right money, honestly.
Yeah.
To me, more so than actually the right situation. And then also Dave Canales says on Wednesday, I want to be in the Hunter Renfrow business, whether that's on the practice squad or on our 53-man roster, right? I want to be there for Hunter Renfrow if he chooses. Made me think, maybe we got this situation a little bit wrong. Of course, Bryson Tremaine definitely did his job and looked really good, but maybe the ball has been in Hunter Renfrow's court the whole time. Maybe this whole thing was like, hey, Panthers, I just want to see if I still got it. Can I come with you for the offseason? Let me go through training camp and let me make a decision on whether I want to be there or not. And if I do well, you know, that type of thing. And maybe it was a dialogue between both sides. And at some point he probably had some assurance like, hey, you're going to make either the roster or the practice squad. You're here. Now it's just really up to you. So maybe he was expecting to get waived this whole time, and he just knew he needed to sit back with his family and his wife and make a decision. I think that's a very interesting situation. It makes me think a little bit differently about pretty much this offseason and everything that happened around it. Also kind of wonder if the Adam Thielen Minnesota Vikings trade talks made things easier for them to keep David Moore along, right? Because again, we were talking before, me and you were thinking if it's Hunter Renfrow, then it's not David Moore. And if it's David Moore, then it's not Hunter Renfrow. And we saw what ended up happening, right? And now with Adam Thielen gone now, and those talks ended up happening, if that made it easier to keep David Moore in the fold. There's a lot of different possibilities that's going through my head, but just putting things together, it feels like that is the story behind this. And now we just sit and wait for whatever Hunter Renfrow wants to end up doing.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see. Again, we're not in the mind of Hunter Renfrow, so we're trying to read this from the outside. I wonder if he's trying to decide of, do I still want to go through the grind of an NFL season with the practices and so on and so forth?
How does my body respond after this ulcerative colitis to everything too?
Yeah, just to only be on a practice squad, you know, with maybe the opportunity to get elevated if it's there. But again, that's not a guarantee. You know, if everyone's, you know, knock on wood, stays healthy, then the opportunity may or may not be there as the season goes along. So that's something that he all has to weigh in to consider as well. And also it's just, does he want to do it? Let's be honest. Let's not forget this, is that he was contemplating retiring, and Dabo Swinney, the head coach of Clemson, his former college coach, said, hey, go give it one more shot. So that thought's been in his head. That's public knowledge that's out there. I'm not saying that's what he's thinking now, but I'm just curious to see what Renfrow is going to decide to do. You know, that's really about it. I'm just curious to see what he decides to do. And if he tells the Carolina Panthers, hey, look, I'll go beyond the practice squad, I guarantee you they're going to make a spot for him. 100% they'll make a spot for him. Absolutely they will.
And I think also the thing with the practice squad situation too is if he decides, hey, I want to give this another shot, they can use the practice squad to get him further into football shape without the pressure of holding a roster spot or, putting him, in harm's way, right? Maybe he's not ready as he's still trying to get his weight and speed and everything else back to receive NFL hits. Not only, again, was he not on the field for an entire year, he lost so much weight, he got down to 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a former football player, I only did Little League, but also I know as a former pro wrestler, when you have that your body, you need to get your body ready for impact.
Yeah.
And you just can't go, I haven't been inside of a wrestling ring in years. I can't go wrestle a match right now and expect to be okay tomorrow. You got to get your body back into just that shape. And when you think about it, yes, he had some off season, beyond the training, beyond training camp, but he really only had training camp and he was injured for a big chunk of that.
Yeah.
When you talk about pads and getting hit and stuff like that, he probably needs to really think about it. And then also when he does come back, no pressure to getting on the field immediately. So his body can get ready for that type of a grueling season. So it's going to be very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, it 100% will be. And you know what? If I'm Carolina Panthers, you leave the door open if he wants to get involved, but otherwise you got to focus on who's there. And Chris, there were a couple of additions that were made to the Carolina Panthers today, or I should say on Wednesday. So Adam Thielen, as we know, got traded, and they actually made a couple of claims on their 53-man roster. So they were able to add a wide receiver from the Rams from the Chargers. My apologies, the other LA team. Jadeveon Campbell. Hope I'm saying his first name correctly. Jadeveon Campbell they added from the Chargers. And also Damari Mathis, a defensive back, a corner from the Denver Broncos. Campbell makes it 7 wide receivers once again. Get the impression that his physical body type of being 6'4" and over 200 pounds, Chris, there seems to be a physical type that the Panthers like at wide receiver, but seems to be strictly brought in to be a special teamer. That's something that the physical profile fits what they want to have on special team. Yeah, be a gunner on special teams, and
that was something that we noticed that they didn't necessarily have either.
They did not. So they needed to address that, and they definitely did. But the addition of Damari Mathis, a corner, adds a little bit into that secondary in the sense of he was a 2022 draft pick by the Denver Broncos. Who did he play his rookie season underneath as a defensive coordinator?
E.J. Everett.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of familiarity there. And ironically, that was actually his most productive season in his career, was actually his rookie season with Detroit. So there's a little familiarity there. So you would anticipate that Mathis will be able to pick up the defensive scheme somewhat quickly to get ready for week 1. But I wonder, Chris, with these couple of additions, by the way, Jaden Crumedy had to get put on waivers. My guess is if they can, they're going to put him on the practice squad if they can. Yep. But my assumption on this, Chris, is that this team, just like last year when it came to defensive backs, will continue to find anything and everything that they can in order to try and build up the depth. If you can find the diamond in the rough, something that fits your team and your scheme the best way, this team is going to have to do it because the depth is still pretty thin there at corner, especially once you get past Mike Jack, Shaw Smith-Wade, J.C. Horn, and Corey Thornton. Yeah, I know Caleb Evans is there, but it's question marks.
Yeah, 6 guys on the roster right now. So we'll see what – if you said this, I'm sorry, but is Damari Mathis, you think can go in and play nickel? Because I think he might be able to. That's the other part that we, talked about before, was that there wasn't really a true backup nickel behind Shaw Smith-Wade. So if that's going to be him, that's going to be cool to see too. Panthers also added Greensboro native Hendon Hooker.
Oh yeah, that's right, to the practice squad.
I'm going to tell you why I like this.
I love it.
First off, Dave Canales had some glowing words for him. It sounded like he really liked Hendon Hooker coming out of college anyway. So it was a guy that he kept his eyes on. But it really feels like this is the end for Andy Dalton. I always felt like this year Andy Dalton came back, and also Adam Thielen, this was the last year for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Plummer is I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it just didn't look like he was going to be a person that if Bryce went down, he could come in and win games for you.
Yeah.
So we talked about this a few episodes ago. You're going to have to start looking at some sort of backup option for Bryce Young for the future. Somebody that could probably win games, but also you maybe have to develop a little bit. And I think that's Hendon Hooker. He was able to be around a winning franchise, was able to be around some winning football in college. And he's an older guy. Like, he got drafted last year, maybe 2023. And then when he came into the NFL, he was 25. So he was in college for a minute, because I covered him in high school in 2016, 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
COVID years and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So it was a lot. Like, my man it's been a minute. But he's an older guy and comes from a football family. His dad is literally the best quarterback to ever put on in North Carolina A&T jersey. His brother was a quarterback in high school as well after him. Play with some good players over at Ragsdale High School in Jamestown. So there's something there, and I would assume that if Hendon can come in and get used to the system and they can develop him, that could possibly be the backup of the future for Bryce Young.
Very well could be.
I'm fine with that.
Speaking of the future here, Chris, I did a rough count here. I may have miscounted here, but we talked about the youth movement for this Panthers team. If you look at the players that are age 30 or over on the team, David Moore, A'Shawn Robinson, Nick Scott, all three of those guys are 30 years old. Taylor Moton, 31. Then you have punter Sam Martin, 35, Andy Dalton, backup quarterback, 37, JJ Jansen, long snapper, 39. That's it. That's it for guys 30 or over on this team. If you actually look at guys that are 26 or younger, I may have messed up the count, but I remember correctly, I got to, I think it was 32 guys. They're age 26 or younger on this roster.
That was needed.
Literally over half of the team. Absolutely needed. The youth movement has been there. They got rid of Adam Thielen. They let him walk. They let Shy Tuttle go to keep Clowney. Now, granted, they made a couple, they had to let him go, but they kept Cam Jackson and so on. They kept a lot of younger guys on their roster. It's a relatively still young team. It's going to go through some growing pains this year, but I love the fact that they've turned this roster over from a couple years ago and it got younger. Because let's not forget, 2023, the roster in this Panthers team, Chris, was one of the oldest in the entire NFL. And they were bad. They were in terrible salary cap shape, and they were old, and they weren't good, which is like cardinal sins in the NFL. And it obviously turned into the 2-11 season that we saw.
Said it once, say it again. Also another indication that the Panthers are okay if this year is just a regular, 6, 7, 8, 9 win year, because they're gearing up for the future, and them getting future compensation for the draft for Adam Thielen instead of something immediate in return. That's also an indication with that for that as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think it also goes to shows in some of these young guys, there is faith in them.
Sure.
Hey, we have faith
for sure
in Jalen Coker. We have faith in maybe Jimmy Horn Jr. can evolve and grow. Like there's faith in these 2 first-round picks at wide receiver. And there's maybe some faith that you're going to get more out of Jadeveon Sanders as well.
Something really quick on Jadeveon.
Yeah.
There's a video circulating from training camp over with the Chargers. Him catching a touchdown in practice over Dante Jackson. Like literally mossed him. So my man already looking good against former Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section, folks. Chris, next week's game week. Next week's game week. I'm ready. I'm excited. I don't have super high hopes for this Jacksonville game, but I'm optimistic overall about the future of this franchise. Gonna take their lumps this year. But Chris, it's game week. Game week coming up.
Love it. Excited.
So make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode, because we're going to have another episode for you all on Thursday next week. And obviously our post-game episodes as well. We're going to have that for you guys all season long. So we love y'all. Y'all be good.